Thank you everyone for joining us this evening and for your interest in preserving our waterways and our waterfront. My name is Jack Cardis and I am an associate with Pros Consulting, and I'd like to introduce three people who will be working with us tonight. That is Stephanie Cornejo, who is a parks planner. She is overseeing this waterfront project and hosting our chat room, and Austin Hochstetler from Pros Consulting, who will be facilitating the Zoom and polling, and Leon Younger, who is the president and chief executive of Pros Consulting. So all of us will be helping us get through this meeting tonight and get as much information as we can to help with this report. We will be recording it, and it will be available on the Parks website within a week after this session tonight. So I'd like to just go over the agenda real quick. We're going to first talk a little bit about how to use the Zoom virtual public workshop so you're familiar with all the features. We'll introduce why we're here and what makes up your park system, and then we'll dive into the overview of the Waterfront Recreation Access Plan. And then we'll begin a discussion. We'll have a little polling that'll be in there, so we're going to break it up a little bit and get you involved in some polling, and then we'll have a good discussion about what your thoughts are, and then we'll do a short survey at the end so that you'll help us improve by telling us what you thought of the presentation. So as part of our housekeeping tonight, just remember we are here because we're keeping everybody safe from the COVID-19 virus, and so it's a whole new era in the way of public meetings. So we'd like to facilitate a comfortable digital meeting and ensure that everyone understands how to use the Zoom. So if you move your cursor over the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see the following features. The chat feature. We'll take a few polls throughout the presentation, and we'll use this chat function during the polling in case you have any questions on the poll. This feature will only be available during the polls and will be used to track input during the actual workshop later. Then there's the icon for raising your hand. Please use this feature only during the workshop session later in the evening if you'd like to share verbally or speak or have a question verbally. The Q&A feature, please submit your questions via the Q&A function during the presentation. We will be monitoring those questions and comments, and we'll try to address them throughout the workshop. As a friendly reminder, if you have connectivity issues, don't worry. Please log back into the session. It'll let you right back in. Should you need to leave the session for any reason, please be sure to type in your questions and comments, and we would love for you and type those into the Q&A function. And make sure you go to the Miami-Dade.gov and click on the Parks Department so you can get to our waterfront survey. So please take that survey. We'll remind you again at the end of the presentation. So, oh, well, look at that. We had some features in here that I wasn't even aware of. Okay, look at that. Okay. Let's see where we go next. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our park system. I'd like to give you just a quick kind of overview of Miami-Dade Parks. It is the third largest park system in the country, and it serves 2.7 million residents throughout the Miami-Dade County in its regional park system. At the local level, the department serves 1.4 million residents that are in the unincorporated Dade County areas. Your park system has over 270 parks. And for those of you who might not be aware, the county has a park and open space master plan. This park and open space master plan was the product of dozens of meetings between 2006 and 2008 when these meetings were held all over the county to help develop a vision for what the park system would look like. That vision was completed in 2009, and there has been nearly $3 billion in capital improvements that are, if ever this plan will be built out in its entirety, this is the kind of vision that the community wants for its park system. That's big, significant capital improvements. This plan is a 50-year vision for a connected system of parks and public spaces, and not just single destinations. So it considers parks, public spaces, natural and cultural areas, and the greenways and blueways, or the waterways like we'll be talking about tonight, with the complete streets that tie those all together. And one of the best features of the plan is its gestures towards great greenways and blueways that provide wildlife habitat, scenic vistas, recreation, transportation opportunities that serve to connect parks to each other and to the communities through open space corridors and waterways. And probably the best thing about living in Miami-Dade County, we are the only community in the country to be surrounded by 2 national parks, Everglades National Park to the west and Biscayne National Park to the east. So we have a unique opportunity to connect those systems east to west, because both sides of them involve water, and there are water connections, as we all know, throughout. So Florida Inland Navigation District and the has partnered with the Miami-Dade Park Recreation Open Spaces Department to begin work on the long-awaited Waterfront Recreation Access Plan, or WRAP as we call it. The intent is to develop a strategic plan that will unify in a single document recommendations for improving public access to the county's waterways while protecting the marine environment and working waterfront businesses, and providing an increase in recreational and ecotourism opportunities, climate change adaptation, and in connectivity to the bay through our transportation, inland canal, and lake systems. The WRAP is a transformational document, and it will inspire and guide our policymakers and public agencies and elected officials in making the best decisions for our waterways that will include the ideas and input that you give us today. So to that end, an interdisciplinary team of professional planners, environmental engineers, and economists led by the Miami-Dade County Park Recreation Open Spaces Department Planning and Research Division is developing the WRAP. Elements of the planning process include a comprehensive review of all documents related to waterfront management, protection, and governance, along with stakeholder interviews and interactive public engagement workshops like this one to understand what our citizens need and want. And as a component of the Miami-Dade County Open Space Master Plan, the vision for the WRAP is to provide improved public access to Biscayne Bay and the other waterways of Miami-Dade County in order to encourage residents and visitors to responsibly use, enjoy, and protect these unique natural resources. And to realize this vision, the WRAP's shared values include access for everyone. Whether you own a powerboat or a sailboat, or you fish on a headboat or from a fishing pier or a bridge, or you swim in the bay or an atoll pool, or simply walk along the shoreline, access is for everyone. And we will emphasize access for economically disadvantaged and create opportunities for the disabled, and increase opportunities for tourists, residents, and school-aged children. And it also means more access of all types. We need a lot more public access points for kayaks and paddleboards, more boat ramps and marina space, access for kite surfing, snorkeling trails, access to the artificial reefs and whatnot. We hear it all. Another shared value is responsible use and greater access will promote environmental protection. We know users will demand policies which protect our resources. We also know environmental policies can be more efficient and effective and encourage public participation. The public loves to get involved. Also, all of our public access points will reflect natural beauty. We live in one of the most beautiful environments anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. So the use of native and sustainable landscaping and materials that with low impact designs, in other words, less concrete and more natural solutions, are the things that we will be recommending in this plan. We also know that increased access will grow the economy and increase jobs. Water sports, retail, and entertainment industries will grow. The boating industry will grow, and not only the sale of boats, but in the maintenance and repair of those boats. The boating business itself is a $12 billion economic boost to South Florida. And finally, the WRAP will encourage people to get involved and stay involved. This is about citizen stewardship. People want to help, and people will want to be educated about the opportunities that exist out there to volunteer and to take personal responsibility for protecting and reinvigorating our marine environment. So, striking the right balance of public access, environmental protection, economic sustainability, and climate resilience is the primary challenge of the RAP. Currently, most activity is concentrated near the bay, and this has a profound impact, as we know and have been reading the papers over the last 2 weeks. The health of the bay we have plenty of problems there, and it's because we have so much use concentrated there. But a common lament is that residents live very near to one of the most beautiful water bodies in the world, but due to traffic congestion and other obstacles, they're unable to enjoy the water as frequently as they would like to. To reduce the impact on natural resources, new opportunities for waterfront recreation will need to be dispersed throughout the community. And when you look at this map, these are all of the permitted marinas operations around our community. You see it's all stacked on the east side of our land body here. By opening up recreational opportunities and water bodies closer to home, we can relieve the pressure on the environmentally sensitive areas, reduce our carbon footprint by driving all the way from West Kendall out to Biscayne Bay, and increase opportunities for all demographic strata, ultimately increasing overall community well-being. Just think how many canals and lakes connect the bay and reach all the way to the Everglades. It's amazing when you look at it from a satellite photograph. Now, there are 3 overarching concepts that will be governing this plan and we'll sort of lean towards and talk a little bit about as we go along. The first one is the recreation opportunity spectrum. Nearly 50% of water use in our community does not involve a power or sailboat. It involves kayaks or canoes, swimming, walking along a shoreline, fishing from a pier. So there's a whole different relationship that half of our population has to the water than a typical boater. So the diagram on your screen shows the spectrum beginning with primitive sites with access but no amenities, to limited sites that might include a restroom and concession, to the network sites that are typically found along the intercoastal waterway, and finally to a full amenity experience, which includes dockage, parking, concessions, retail, entertainment, and special events. The second concept is compatible and shared use. This is a key to successful active waterfronts. Land is too expensive, so using it for multiple experiences and multiple benefits is critical to the success of any waterfront plan. Combining public access points with purpose-specific access points requires careful planning, but has greater efficiency. Just think that, of all the places where temporary after-hours docking can be available for residents or visitors at marina-based businesses that aren't open in the evening time. And all the kayaks and paddleboard and canoe launch areas that exist on street ends along the bay and along our canal systems, where neighborhoods could simply access the water without having to drive all the way to a regional park or launch at one of the boat ramps. Or sharing access with independent commercial fishers for dining and cultural experiences. Or seasonal and special events, specific loading and offloading for ferry boats and water taxi passengers. And the third concept is connectivity. We've all heard that term. Fully connected and accessible public spaces can also give neighborhoods a unique identity and help create connections through place attachment. The strong emotional bonds people form with their surroundings. An equitable provision for parks, local parks with water access connected to greenways, public transportation, and water taxis is one way to lessen the disparity between wealthy and poor neighborhoods by enhancing neighborhood assets. So the RAP will provide direction for improving public access and creating an interconnected system of publicly accessible waterfront destinations that includes expanded water-based transportation, increasing and enhancing nature-based recreational and ecotourism opportunities, protecting our natural resources and incorporating climate change adaptation along our shorelines, and promoting sustainable economics and mapping the Park and Open Space Master Plan's Blueways water trail system. And so to get you a little bit engaged, I'm going to turn this over to Austin. Austin, we've got some polling questions I think that we want to run some folks through and see and test our software here and see, make sure everything works. So Austin, it's all yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jack. So good evening, everyone. My name is Austin. And so we'll get into this in a little bit later in this presentation that we do have a public survey that is available, but we wanted to make this a little bit more interactive as part of this particular engagement. So we have selected about 7 questions that we are trying to solicit feedback on, and that we are going to do this in real time with you all on the spot. And so I'm going to launch the polling here. And what's going to happen is on your screen, you should see a box pop up and you'll see a question. And so it says, in order to gain a better understanding of infrastructure and operational needs, which of the following categories best describes your main waterfront recreation use type? So you might fall into a couple of these categories, which is fine, but try to think about what is your best description of your main waterfront recreation use type. Are you more of a motorized boater, a non-motorized boater, a waterfront user / shoreline user, or, not applicable, I do not use or access waterfront areas. And as you click on the boxes and click on the responses, I can see them coming in. So I know how many people we have registered for this particular session. And so I can see the votes coming in right now. So we're almost to the saturation here with everybody responding. So we'll keep it open for a few more seconds. So are you a motorized boater, non-motorized boater, waterfront user / shoreline user, or maybe do not use or access waterfront areas? We'll go about another 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. All right, and then I'll share the results. So let's talk about this. All right, so it looks like we have non-motorized boaters represented. We have motorized boaters represented, and waterfront users. Great. So it looks like in terms of the folks that are actually in this meeting today, we kind of have a good cross representation for those available. So great. So now that you understand how this is working a little bit, we have 6 more questions. So I'll pop open the second one here. And so this one is a little bit about location. So what water body do you most frequently use when boating or visiting the shoreline / waterfront? Is it Atlantic Ocean? Is it the bay? Is it canals and lakes? Or is it more of the intercoastal waterway / Miami River? And as those responses are coming in, I just enabled the chat feature. So you all should be able to respond now. If there's something up here that you also access that you want to make sure that we know about, go ahead and type it into the chat pod. And because I just set the header there as poll water body, you can go ahead and you can type into the chat pod if there's other areas that you also utilize more frequently when you're boating or you're visiting the shoreline / waterfront. We'll go about another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. So a lot to the bay and a lot to the ocean. And we do have a representative here for the canals and lakes. So thank you for your participation. That's good. All right. Let's go to the third one. So now we want to look a little bit about frequency. And so this is looking at in a typical month, and I get it, and we all understand things change from month to month, but just think generally speaking in the course of a year annually. In a typical month, how frequently do you engage in water activities? Is it never? You're not really on that, you're on that side of the spectrum. Is it occasionally, maybe once a month, once a week, maybe more than once a week? Just trying to get a little bit of an idea about usership. And again, we understand that it can fluctuate from week to week and month to month, but in generalities, where would you lay? Votes are coming in. About 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Got that one in right before I said 0. Good job. All right, share results. All right, so we have the majority of folks are actually once a week or more so than that. So about a little bit more than half are once a week and before, occasionally and once a month. Perfect. All right, so this one might take just a little bit to explain, but we're limited to 10 choices here on this polling feature. And so we put in 10 choices for public waterfront and or boat launch. That could be motorized, non-motorized boat launches in Miami-Dade County. What do you visit most frequently? So we listed out Black Point, Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, Deering Estate, downtown Bayside, Hallover, Homestead, Miami River, Rickenbacker, and South Beach, Ocean Drive. And again, I'm going to type this into the chat feature. If there's something that you utilize that is not up there necessarily, because again, we're asking you, what do you visit most often? So it's just a one answer choice here. If there's something you want to type into the chat pod right now, please feel free to do that in terms of one that you frequent more often. Perfect. So thank you. Crandon Marina. Yep, couple for Crandon. Let's see. Perfect. There you go. Oh, perfect. Very, very specific. Good. Thank you. We'll go about another 5 seconds here. So if you want to keep clicking on this poll, we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. So let's see. Hallover. We kind of got good dispersion of use there, and then mix in a couple of the other ones posted in the chat pod. Perfect. Great. Thank you. All right. So this is a little bit of a different question that we want to look at crowding. So please indicate, and this is you can select more than one of these options here. So please indicate if you have experienced any of the following statements during your boating or waterfront experience in Miami-Dade County in the last year. So felt overcrowding during your water experience where you put your boat in the water or where you access the waterfront. Change launch sites to another site or relocated to a different waterfront as a result of overcrowding. Or you change plans entirely as a direct result of overcrowding. You know, you had your heart set on launching a boat, motorized or non-motorized, or participating in dining experiences along the waterfront, walking on trails, etc. But then according to overcrowding, you changed plans entirely and decided not to. All right, votes are coming in. Yeah, absolutely, Peter. That's a great comment. We know it's a little this day and age. It affects things a little bit more. So yeah, we'll go about another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Let's see. So felt overcrowding during the water experience. Yep. So some folks have changed sites and changed plans entirely, but it seems like the majority have at least felt some sort of overcrowding during their participation along to the shoreline. Perfect. Okay. This is a question about willingness to travel. So how far would you travel to launch your boat or visit the shoreline / waterfront if your preferred ramp wasn't available or the preferred shoreline waterfront was overcrowded? So what would you be willing to do to go somewhere else? Is it less than 10 miles away? Is it greater? Is it between 10 miles and 20 miles? Is it maybe greater or equal to 20 miles? Or, you know what, none. I would not travel to a different location. I would either going back to the last question, I would either just kind of, try to tough it out, or I would just probably change plans altogether. But this is just looking at a little bit of a trade-off here. If it was crowded, how far would you be willing to travel to go somewhere else to get that similar experience? Boats are coming in. Perfect. We'll go about another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. We'll share the results. So nobody selected greater or equal to 20 miles. So it's kind of this sweet spot between less than 20 miles, but especially less than 10 miles away for the same kind of location. None, I would not travel to a different location. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So one more question here. And so this one is about safety. And so I'm going to type into the chat pod, or excuse me. Nope. I'm not. So this question is, considering the waterfront used the most, so think about where you frequent the most often, how safe do you feel the surrounding waterway area is? So safe can refer to the degree of boat debris in the water, deteriorating broken boat ramps or amenities, facilities, could relate to boater sobriety, could relate to rules and regulation enforcement, maybe along the pathways that you walk, or it's out there on the water, you know, enforcing rules and regulation. It could be any of those type of things. So water quality, if safe refers to if water quality in your mind is impacting your activity, like if you are a swimmer or you like to get into the water, then absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Grant. Absolutely. So we'll go about another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. All right. So somewhat safe is the first one. A couple no opinion, a couple somewhat unsafe, and a couple very safe. Perfect. Thank you for that opportunity. So I'll stop sharing. All right, and then Jack, we'll pass it back along to you to start our next activity.
Wow, that went very smooth. Good. Okay, so let's see if we can get this slideshow to move. And are we frozen? Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have some ground rules that we want to, as we move into this next portion, where you all will have the opportunity to share your ideas with us. We just want to go over a few ground rules. We ask that you please be respectful and courteous to each other as you and be as creative as possible with your suggestions. We'll have 2 questions that focus on waterfront access and water recreation, and we'll spend roughly 15 minutes on each of those questions through our Q&A feature and our discussion. As a friendly reminder, we will be also using some tools. And I apologize because this is a little slow in the movement from slide to slide. I don't know why, but okay, we will go there. Okay, and so so remember, you'll have 3 options. Sorry for that little delay, folks. You'll use there's a chat function that you can add your comments to and ideas. There is the use of the raising of your hand function if you'd like to share something with us verbally. Please make sure that you don't tie up too much time. Be very succinct in what you have to describe verbally, because others may want to do that as well. And then also the Q&A function. And that Q&A function, submit your questions, and we'll be doing everything we can to answer those either on the question, and we'll share a few of those towards the end. So, it's really important that you take advantage of writing these out should you not be able to get a chance to speak verbally during the presentation. So with that, we're going to go to our first question. Now let's see if we can get that to come up now. Okay, so here's our first question for you. What barriers exist that keep you from enjoying Biscayne Bay and the waterfront? and if there are any solutions you can offer to that. Is it access? Are they safety issues? Are they, is it lacking of anything from as simple as parking to overcrowding? So please let us know, what are the biggest issues and barriers to your enjoyment of the waterfront and a water experience, whether you're a boater, a non-motorized boater, or a landlubber. So we'll open it up, and so I will depend on Austin and Stephanie to kind of guide whether or not there are questions coming in on the Q&A or people raising hands.
Perfect. And then also in the chat pod, we started the discussion Q1 barriers topic. So feel free to type in your responses to the question, or if you want to be called upon, just use the raise hand icon on your screen, and then I will unmute you, and then we can actually chat. So either chat in the chat pod or raise your hand, do that little symbol, and we will call upon you. Let's see, one answer coming in. A couple answers coming in. There we go. So it looks like lack of adequate marinas, no new marinas or improvements to existing ones in many areas or many years. Let's see. Yep, a lot of barriers. So congestion, access to existing marinas, possibly creating new marinas. Yep, there's a good point about non-motorized boating. So many of the canals dead end at major streets. That's a conversation that we've had as a project team for a couple months, talking about street ends. So that's a great point. Debris, garbage in the water, other matter, urban runoff that causes me, to not want to get in the water. So that goes back to the water quality conversation that we've had. Crowding during hours of operation. Water quality again, perfect. Yes, and the existing time that we live in, the COVID.
And just to jump in, Austin, Danny wrote in the Q&A, access is the main problem. There aren't enough sites to launch non-motorized from. Also, hours of operation is another issue. Why do our parks close after sunset?
Yep, great, perfect. Water quality. Yeah, limited time to 24 hours. Water quality. Yeah, that's a good point too. That folks are bringing up you see a lot of it on trails. I'm not picking on anybody, but like bikers versus hikers versus equestrian. Those kind of things. It's the same thing for water. It's motorized versus non-motorized versus your activities too. So those are great concepts you're bringing forward.
I'd like to throw something out there since everybody's rolling them in. Where would be suggestions for new marinas, or what kind of expansion on existing marinas? Just to provide some solutions, if you have some thoughts, please throw those in there, or if you'd like to chat about that. Also, street ends. One of the issues that many municipalities face with the street ends is what's called NIMBY, which many of you know, not in my backyard, and neighborhoods don't necessarily like people coming into the neighborhoods for those launch facilities. If there's any suggestions anyone has about street end access for kayak and canoe launching that might overcome that kind of sentiment of certain neighborhoods.
Chapman Field could be a location. Miami Marine Stadium. Oh, accessibility versus public transit. There you go. There's a topic.
Talk to me about public transit. What is that saying?
So in the last comment, so having to plan trips with friends who have cars, but perhaps parks could offer tours that take off from main transit hubs, drive to snorkel spots, etc., and back. So trying to help actually facilitate the transit and the access to some of these sites.
That's a really good observation because just so everyone knows, we are doing GIS work right now that is overlapping the SMART plan, bus and public transportation routes, our greenway system, and our waterways. And it's amazing when you do all those overlaps, you see the connections and you see the gaps where transportation is needed. And something as simple as a bus stop can increase access exponentially. So that's a very good suggestion. Thank you.
And to add, Danny put into the chat, I think land acquisition will be the best option. The coast should be available to everyone, not just those with enough money to purchase on the coast. Yeah, land acquisition is really important and key to providing more access in other sites that don't exist today.
Okay.
And just a friendly reminder to everyone, you're welcome to the raise hand function, and we'd be happy to unmute in case you want to vocalize anything. But these are great suggestions and great reflections.
I anticipated there would be a lot of hands up, but these folks are throwing us some good information here. This is good, and we got a good record of it too. That's great.
Sure. Actually, Jack, Grant asked a question about the term Blueways. Would you mind sharing a little bit about Blueways and our interchange with water trails?
Yeah, well, the Blueways and the water trails are essentially the same thing. They're just simply the corridors by which we can put motorized or non-motorized vessels to make those kind of transportation links. In other words, think greenways or bicycle ways on water. And so they are connection points. We have them all throughout the community. We have a number of significant canals from Snake Creek Canal to Biscayne, to the Biscayne Canal on down to the C-111. You've got the C-100. You've got these canals that run in the Miami River itself all the way out to the Everglades. And there's all kinds of spur canals that go into neighborhoods that can tie into those. Some of them, those who live in the North Dade area know that Snake Creek, an area that I grew up in, we water skied on that canal all the time, and it has a boat ramp at 441. So those are the kinds of working with South Florida Water Management District and other opportunities for creating those kinds of uses along the canals and opening those up. That's what the Blueway portion of the plan is all about, and designing some of those tour routes where people can go, not only to launch, but also to see something interesting and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, similar to a bicycle repair station, a wash station would be great for non-motorized users. Great point. And this goes back to the recreation opportunity spectrum that Jack, you were mentioning earlier about the different sites and some of the amenities that are associated with those.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, one of the idea that we could actually have bike racks for canoes on the water. In other words, if somebody wanted to use a kayak as a form of transportation along the Miami River or in one of our canals that might reach to a destination point, where can they tie it up without taking up valuable spots where boats might need to come and go from? You can pull it out of the water, tie it up, and make sure it's safe. It's there when you come back.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good, those kinds of amenities. I think probably what we should do, Austin, is I think we've got a bit on the barriers. Let's jump to the next question so that we can get people talking to the thought of what transformational opportunities can you recommend, and what would this access or enhancement look like? I heard someone say Chapman Field. Well, what do you put at Chapman Field there? What would these transformational ideas really look like? For boaters, are there more artificial reefs or more anchorages or more launching facilities, and where should we concentrate our launching, putting new launching facilities in? And for folks that are on the shoreline and are not boaters, where do you want to fish from? What parts of town, and what would a good fishing platform perhaps look like, or a swimming area, or entertainment and retail and special events? So this kind of question is for kind of thinking out of the box. What are those transformational opportunities that exist? Somehow getting that ecotourism tour that can connect a guy who's on a bicycle with, or a guy or a gal with a bicycle with a kayak that can move along the Biscayne Everglades Greenway and put their kayak in the water at any point and be in Everglades in 1 minute and Biscayne National Park in the other. That's transformational stuff. So we just kind of throw out what your ideas might be for those sorts of things and what priorities we should give to some of those.
Okay, so we have some answers coming. Oh, we have somebody who actually raised their hand. Look at that. All right, Donovan, I'm going to allow you to talk. You are available to talk. Go ahead, Donovan.
All right, can you hear?
Whoop, sorry, pushed the wrong button. Yes, Donovan, go ahead again. Sorry. You have to unmute yourself again. I pushed the wrong button. I apologize.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. I think that I use Black Point Marina. I'm a charter captain, and I've noticed ever since the COVID-19, we all have been kind of hassling with the problems with the loading and the launching and the parking and stuff. We understand that, but there's been times where I've actually dropped my boat, being stuck out on the highway, driven in with my truck, and found plenty of parking, and the people that were supposed to be running the ramps and the police officers standing around, lots of parking, lots of boats left, and there's people that are still trying to get to the water, but yet we're parked out on the street across from the dump for, you know, upwards of an hour, 2 hours. And when I'm having to take clients out, you know, I'm having to wake up and get to the ramp several hours before time, and even in the afternoons because I do bow fishing. It's a late night thing, and sometimes I can't even get on the water, and I'm worried about taking my clients there. So we really need to be focused on the boats that are going out and letting boats come in and training the personnel. If this isn't going away, we need to have training, and they need to be trained on how to properly execute the boat ramp, you know, moving people, trucks, and boat trailers in and out of that place.
Was that a recent experience that you had, or is that in the past?
That is nonstop, every single day, every
Okay.
single weekend. I guarantee you every boater will tell you it's exactly the same.
Is you know, one of the there's some questions that are in the survey that I think, Donovan, you might like to, you know, look at, because there might be some other options too for launching in the way of reservation systems and some other kinds of ways in which to approach that overcrowding. So take a good look in this survey. I would really appreciate you filling that out, because we'd love your input on that. There might be other ways to handle that would create, especially for you in a business, you know, you might have an incentive, you know, to do a different kind of system there for launching. So,
Well, I used to be able to launch in the evenings after dark, which was fine with me. Most people are gone. Most boaters want to be out of the water right before dark. That's when the hecticness of the boat ramp happens, and that's when people don't know how to load their boats, and there's big troubles there. I would normally come in after dark, but because of being closed at 8 o'clock, which sometimes they actually close around 5:30, 6 o'clock, even though there's boat parking and there's space, they shut the ramps down. Who authorizes them to shut it down when it's been the mayor's, you know, set the times for the ramps? So you have lots of boaters that are waiting. There's parking spaces. There's actually, I did a video where I dropped my boat, drove in with my truck, did a video. Every single ramp was open. There were parking spaces, and yet the police officers kept us blocked out, and there was at least 15 boats lined up out there, turned away and said that we were closed 2 hours before 8 o'clock. That's a problem.
got it. Donovan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just to catch you up, Jack, on some of the things that have been coming into the chat pod. Old bathhouse area in the central parking lot of Hallover Park is beautiful. Wish it were activated or otherwise used somehow. Chapman Field needs more launching facilities for motorized boats, taking larger boats into account as well. Already has a good launch for non-motorized, which is great, although it needs some work to use that.
Which one was that? I'm sorry. Say that one again, Austin.
Chapman Fields needs more
Right.
launching facilities for motorized boats,
Uh-huh.
taking into account larger boats as well. It does have a non-motorized launch, which is great, but it needs some work to use that a little bit.
Okay.
Pressure wash the boat ramps at low tide to remove slime. And then a couple folks agreeing with Donovan's points here, talking about police and park staff, kind of a barriers to kind of the operations a little bit. It would be possible to put kayaks or canoes in Dadeland Mall or the Falls, designating canals as routes, like bike routes currently are designated, would let people know that there's something to see. Bird life, for instance, along these canals is underappreciated. So yeah, using that again as that mode of transportation, kind of that point.
Well, that's a really good point about Snapper Creek behind Dadeland Mall. There's a very good green area where there's actually the convergence of both the Ludlam Trail and the Underline, and a canal system that runs right through there. And that canal system runs all the way out to FIU and then up 8th Street out into the Everglades. So that's a remarkable opportunity. That's a good observation.
I'd like to add too, from the Q&A, we received 2 comments. Someone had chimed in hours of operation should definitely be extended. Also, they would like to see more security possibilities as well, whether it's security or cameras. Maybe some of those emergency posts where you push the button that links someone to the operator, just so people feel a bit safer.
Got it. I know they're putting, I believe the county actually has a system of cameras that are being installed in the marinas. I think they're starting up at the north end with the at Hollover. So, but I don't know the extent and what the time frame is on that. But good suggestion. Okay. So we got a couple more minutes. Anything else that anybody else has on for the good of the order?
On the Q&A side, we received a suggestion for 184th Street has some potential for a future marina.
184th Street and what? And what is the avenue?
An Old Cutler.
Oh, an Old Cutler. Okay.
Thank you.
And then Snapper Creek boat ramp could be rebuilt and make a bit more parking along the canal edge towards the first bridge. It would help that area out. Another comment submitted.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Donovan, for being the first and only brave soldier to raise your hand to talk to us. We appreciate it.
It's good. It's good observations.
Green spaces and nature centers greatly improve waterways, but people also need to know about it. So that's the education and outreach component. So kind of a personal anecdote. Once a coworker told me that Crandon was his favorite beach, but he had no idea that the nature center or visitor center existed. Perhaps more signage maps could direct guests to these types of facilities. Simpson Park is also a fantastic resource, stumbled upon by accident. We would love to see more events / activities hosted there. So good points about wayfinding, education, interpretation, and associated. Because again, going back to Jack's explanation of Blueways and water trails and all that stuff, if you're going to really start highlighting these, it's just like any hard surface trail. We need to have wayfinding and that messaging associated with those two. So great points.
In a recent tour that we had made, I made with some of the team members, we got photographs. The signage is just very inconsistent and it's sporadic and it's deteriorating. And so, having a set of signs that are really providing the kind of information, not only education, but also helpful with, enforcement issues as well. And we're all over the place. Everybody's doing something different in all 4 corners, which when you have 22 municipalities that touch the water, that touch Biscayne Bay, and then all of unincorporated Miami-Dade County, you talk about herding cats when it comes to getting a set of signage standards. But I suspect we're going to need to make that recommendation, just like with the greenway system. Signage standards have to be done. Okay, I think we've got about 8 minutes, 9 minutes left, so maybe we should just go on. And folks, I encourage you to keep plugging away, because we've got, if anything comes to mind as we're going, we have that record. This is being recorded. We are keeping track of everything, and these are really, really valuable to us. So let's go to the next slide, and let's see if I can get it to move now. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Okay, so Stephanie, was there any Q&A things that I guess we've pretty much read them all. I think we were going to take this pause here in case we had more speakers. So we got everything covered?
We do, yes. I just wanted to reiterate a question received early on. For those who haven't seen the answer, we will be posting the recording on our project webpage in the next few days. So you'll be able to access that if you'd like.
Okay, very good. Okay, so let's go. So our next steps, public survey. We need you folks to carry the message, and we encourage you all, please, just because you are on this call, we do need you to go and take the survey. The survey will provide us with all kinds of information, demographic information, as well as other user and choice questions that are in there, so we get an idea of what exactly your thresholds are, your interests are. So go to miami-dade.gov, navigate to the Parks and Recreation page, and you'll see the waterfront plan there. Click on that. It'll take you right to the survey. It'll take about 15 minutes, between 15 and 20 minutes to complete. Sunday, September 20th is the last day to take that survey. We'd appreciate your help in sharing that survey with your friends and family networks. The more people, the more information we can gather, the more statistically valid, more comfortable we are with making our recommendations. So the next two workshops, also we have a workshop coming up this Thursday, same time, same place, and also next Wednesday. So we would appreciate you sharing that with friends, those that weren't able to make this one as well. The registration pages and links to these workshops are on the Miami-Dade County Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces Department website. As we get this all together, our report will be done probably by the end of this year, first of next year. So we've got about 3 or 4 months ahead of us of hard work to do in collating all of this information. So let's see. So now we're going to, we would ask you to kind of stay put, and we've got 3 questions for you. So Austin, I think if you could maybe post these questions up, I think I can leave it on this slide, right? Or no, do I need to go? Yeah, I can leave it on this slide.
Yeah, you can leave it on the slide. And then Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind, would you grab the survey link and just plop that into the chat pod, please, so folks can look on that. So yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. So before you all leave us, I'm going to pop open the poll again. So this one is just a little bit different format here. So there's 3 questions here, all on the same poll. So you'll have to scroll if you see these here. And so the first one is just basically overall, how satisfied are you with the way the meeting was conducted? So the statement is, I'm very satisfied with the way the meeting was conducted. Is it strongly disagree, somewhat disagree, neither agree nor disagree, somewhat agree, strongly agree? And again, I'm not going to broadcast these results or anything like that. And it is anonymous, so feel free to tell us what you think here. That's fine. The second question is, overall, I found the meeting engaging. So strongly disagree, somewhat disagree, neither agree nor disagree, somewhat agree, or strongly agree. And then the third question here, and thank you, Stephanie, she posted the survey link into the chat pod. If you notice, there's an English language survey and a Spanish language survey. So I'm also going to put this, whoops, got the wrong one. So the third question I want you all to answer is, how would you improve this meeting? So the actual act of doing this virtually, and please select all that would apply. See more time for discussion, information was too technical, the audio visual connection should be improved. And if you have other, if you do select other, I put that into the chat pod here, evaluation other, please, would you go ahead and just kind of type in what some of your other suggestions would be? That'd be great. Or not applicable, I do not have any feedback to improve the meeting, that's fine too. So again, if you click on other, if you wouldn't mind, just type something into the chat pod so we know what to do, because like Jack just mentioned, we have 2 more meetings coming up. So we want to make sure that we either adjust our timelines or, you know, build in some different types of functionality.
Very good. Okay, so you give them a
I'm
minute
gonna
to
end
finish
the,
that, or?
yeah, I'm going to end the polls here in about 3, 2, 1. Thanks. All right, we're good.
Well, one thing's for certain. I think we stayed with our time frame here, which is perfect, and we might actually be a minute or 2 early on the finishing here. So, folks, we just want you to stay engaged with us. We need your feedback. We thank you for everything you've given us today. But if you have any other ideas, you're welcome to jump back on the next chat. We're going to be together again Thursday and then next week. So please join us again. But if you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to contact Stephanie her email is there on the screen, or her telephone number, 305-755-7957. Make sure you make that contact before September 20th. That's when we are going to be rolling all of your information into the report and begin to craft our recommendations and drafting the report for the end of the year. So with that, Austin, Stephanie, if you have any other things you'd like to share before we go.
I'd just like to jump in. We had a great question on the Q&A, whether the next few meetings we have on Thursday and the next week are going to be any different from this one. It'll be the exact same workshop, the same questions, and of course with the feedback you're giving us on your experience today during the workshop, we may tweak a few things, but essentially it'll be the same set of questions and same engagement that we have today.
And we know that you're going to be driving along or you'll be trying to launch your boat or something over the weekend, and something's going to click and you're going to want to get back to us. We want that information. So please, you have Stephanie's number here and you have her email address. Send her a note. You can go into the survey and there's space in there to provide more information as well, or more suggestions as well. So please feel free to do that. And with that, I want to thank the team, Austin, Stephanie, Leon. Thank you very much for all the work that went into doing this. And I want to thank everybody for being there for us today. And we look forward to working for you and delivering a great product here in the Waterfront Recreation Access Plan. So everyone have a good evening. Thank you again.
Thank you. Be safe. Have a nice evening.